Well, with Andrew Tate going in and out of a Romanian jail for what feels like about a year at this point, the Whatever podcast is constantly losing numbers and is basically just doing the same thing over and over again for 3 hours every day. No offense to NASCAR. And Sneeko is admitting that he was really only part of this entire red pill movement agenda because, well, it made him a ton of money. And it seems like we are finally at the end of this once actually not complete crap movement. Shout out to PETA. What's going on, big dogs? SGLeeo here, and in today's video, we'll be going over how the red pill movement has slowly bled out to death, and how this can hopefully lead to actual, genuine people getting the attention that they finally and truly deserve. So sit back, relax, and let's dig into this. Alright guys, so the whole red pill idea was coined based on the movie The Matrix, where at the very end of the film, the main protagonist, played by Keanu Reeves, is presented an option. He can take the blue pill, and you will basically live a life of never knowing what those who run everything are truly up to, and you will kind of just basically be blissfully unaware of what is really going on, or you just won't care. Or you can take the infamous red pill, to be shown and told all the facts, all the truths about everything, whether they're good or bad, or whether you agree with them or not. You will be told nothing but the truth and shown nothing but the truth and facts. And the red pill movement at first was actually just that. Several popular individuals online saying things that, although seemed out of pocket, were actually mostly true almost all the time, and led to several individuals skyrocketing to popularity. Now, the main man behind this entire movement was obviously Andrew Tate, a man who really needs no introduction, and a guy who I used to think had a good amount of genuine quality life advice. Things like, go to the gym, eat right, don't do drugs, don't drink, find a religion you believe in and go to synagogue, church, or whatever your place of worship would be called. And as a man, you should try to provide and protect, and just other basic life advice that you would normally hear from your father or your father figure that you grew up around. All of this while sprinkling in an actual good and decent amount of true motivational content as well. Things talking about his life of being poor and how he rose from rags to riches, and people really gelled to this guy's story. However, although I agree most of his diagnoses are usually correct, it is his prescription or the solution to many of his problems or diagnosis that have always never really sat right with me, or really anybody who can rub two brain cells together. Tate would say things like men should provide and protect for women and their family, which I'm like, heck yeah, they should. Whether you make a lot of money or you don't, maybe your wife is the main breadwinner in the household, there are still other things as a man you can do to provide and protect for your family. But then he would immediately say something like how your girl should have to ask you to do absolutely anything, and all the money that she makes should belong to her man, because women are stupid and dumb, apparently. Or they would talk about how, him and his brother would talk about how religion is good, and people should go to church and worship some type of God and have some type of faith in something. Because having faith in something will always kind of be this safety blanket that when you fall, because in life people fall all the time, you at least have something to fall onto, which is your faith. But then they would turn around and brag about how they exploited women and lied to them so that they could do camgirl websites and make fun of all the sad men browsing these websites of theirs, which is just disgusting. So, before I continue, for those of you who don't know, Andrew Tate has always bragged about all this money he has, that Bugattis are the best woman getter in the world, and if you want women, you should just basically be a dick to them all the time and tell them that they're worthless and that they should do all your stuff for you so that you can make all the money. And, well, obviously, basically, Andrew Tate and his brother Tristan were just a bunch of massive hypocrites because they made all of their money not off of hustling or starting some massive business. No, they made all of their money off of exploiting women and then having them sign into really crappy contracts that basically force them to stay where they're at to do camgirl websites. That's really crappy. That's not religious. That's not providing and protecting. That's just being a scumbag. And like I said, these guys were just basically massive hypocrites who were obviously way more into this whole movement for money over anything else. If you're a sad man, they would tell you to work hard until you had a Lamborghini, or that you should just go get like 10 wives and have them start drop shipping for you, and then you just take all the money. And all this really peaked when, like I stated earlier, the Tate brothers have been going in and out of a Romanian jail or prison while they're under investigation for human trafficking. Now, I think it's very clear that both of them will probably end up spending at least somewhat decent amount of time behind bars. But it's important to note that it wasn't like they were in a white van with free candy slapped on the side of it, or like free Prada purse for any single woman on the side of this van, and just driving around and scooping them up with a shovel and throwing them into the van and then taking them to a camgirl cave. No, instead, and this is Andrew Tate's words, not mine, both of them would go out and get women to basically fall in love with them. They would romanticize these women. Then they would take them back, stoop these women, and then when they had them all sucked in and would have them start believing that they actually genuinely love these women, they would convince them to start doing camgirl stuff and OnlyFans stuff, while having them sign contracts, like stated earlier, that basically made it impossible for them to quit the job or leave the country, which, honestly, Deshaun Watson would be proud of this type of behavior. They also openly bragged about taking all of these sad men's money who would come in and watch these cam girls and complain about how they wish their wife would talk to them and wish that their family would love them and crap like that. And they would just rag on these individuals behind the scenes. And then they have now even started going on into public and bragging about how they would make fun of these men and con them into giving them even more money. And while they were in jail, they even recently tried to bribe the government to hopefully get them out of jail. So all of that being said, it really does seem like this is going to be kind of the end of the Tate brother era. Now, obviously, all the details aren't out there yet, and people can change. I'm a big believer in that. If these guys really wanted to, I do think they can make a lot of money without being complete scumbags towards women. I think these guys give really good motivational advice, and they have a really good rags to riches story. They grew up incredibly poor, and they started kickboxing and doing all that stuff. They've been champions. They've really created themselves from the ground up. And it just seems like in the last couple of years here, maybe about a decade, they've really kind of deviated from the path and started doing things like this. And well, obviously, they were not the only ones to make tons of money and gain loads of notoriety from talking about facts, because the Andrew Tate clone himself, no offense to Baldwin, Sneeko, would also, but he actually seemed to believe and live by most of the things he would talk about. And for a while, he was actually a pretty solid YouTuber. Sure, I didn't agree with many of the things he would talk about, but at the end of the day, he was generally entertaining and would actually clearly put a good amount of time and effort into his videos at the very least. So even if you didn't agree with him, he was still entertaining. It was fun to watch, to say the least. And this was until he found out that all he really had to do to make money on this platform was just say anything that would outrage the masses and get people clicking on his videos. And this is where I have to give Sneeko credit for basically being the one to kind of shut down this red pill movement as of late. Sneeko recently came out on his live stream saying that he really only did a lot of the crazy things he did because it filled his wallet. It made him a ton of money and got people to click on his content. Sneeko, the Tate brothers, and places like the Whatever podcast have basically become nothing but TikTok clip channels. And by that I mean, all they say and do is absolutely ridiculous things in short little bursts to generate clips that they can then upload to places like TikTok, YouTube Shorts, and Instagram Reels in order to basically piss off as many people as possible and get as many people interacting with their clips And all of this worked for quite a good amount of time. But like most things, it got really, really repetitive. And most people started to finally see through a lot of this crap. All these individuals basically seemed to wake up and scroll the internet and try to just make crazy comments on things that were happening in the world. And as someone who used to genuinely enjoy these individuals, it was a really sad fall to see. No more were they talking about facts and actually motivating young men and providing genuinely good life advice. And it was really good to wake up and see an Instagram reel of like Andrew Tate and his brother just being like, hey man, get up, go to the gym, go to work, be a better person than you were today. That was genuinely really cool to see. But instead, they just started going out of their way to say just awful and terrible things about really any woman on that they could find. And they sounded a lot like people you would hear in like an Xbox game lobby. You know what I mean? And sure, at first, a lot of this was really funny, I have to admit. And it made for hilarious clips. And I mean, some of this stuff was really, really funny. It was way out of line and way out of pocket. But after a while, it really does just become repetitive and annoying to hear all of the same junk every day, but just with different idiots that these people start interviewing or commenting on. And now, despite all of what I just stated, I believe it is important to note that I don't actually think the red pill movement was or is going to completely go away. There's a lot of good, high quality individuals who have risen and come out of the woods and are genuinely good influencers on young men who, again, are their primary audience. Young men from the ages of like 14 all the way to mid 20s. You have people like Jordan Peterson, who was absolutely phenomenal and is still phenomenal and gives wonderful, wonderful advice. He really just needs to quit being on Twitter. But other than that, the guy gives phenomenal life advice, very motivational individual, or guys like Joe Rogan. And of course, all of the people over at Daily Wire. All people who preach the same message as those we talked about today, but are guys who actually live and believe what they are saying and doing. They're men who go to the gym, do everything they can to be loving husbands, fathers, and provide and protect for their families, no matter what that is. They stand up for young men who are just trying to find a good father figure or someone to point them in the right direction in life and tell them that you might be struggling, but at the end of the day, everything's going to be okay. And although I am glad that this movement seems to finally be on its last leg, I think it's important to see the good that it has brought into young men as well. Sure, it shined light on some people that aren't the greatest, but it also brought up some genuinely good people who really do only want to help those in need. And at the end of the day, hopefully those individuals will continue to lead and help those who are having a tough time in finding their way in this crazy world we currently live in. And just as a friendly reminder for anyone out there who is struggling, just keep your head high. Work hard and just try to become 1% better every day. Nothing you do will change your life overnight. Everything takes time. But if you work hard, push yourself, and just believe in yourself and try to become the best individual you can be, you'll look back and you will genuinely laugh that you ever even doubted yourself. Thank you guys for watching, and until the next video, everyone, Godspeed.
I lost my best friend to 23. She left her body in Harvard above me.